and we'll have Sean back on. We were just talking about not worshiping false idols. There's too many people who believe that people in power, people even that are their bosses, or even that are pastors, that they are somehow exempt from being human, or that they in some way are going to be perfect, and we should have expectations of their perfection, and that they don't say the wrong thing, that we should have expectations that they've never had sins or made mistakes. To me, maybe this is a cold way of looking at it, but to me, these uh, these public positions, these public officials, they have a job to do. There we go. That is back. There we go. All right, we're back. Cool. But yeah, we should not be idol worshiping other people, and part of that to me is having higher moral expectations of people in power, or of people in like that are pastors even, or your boss or anything like that, or celebrities. They're just humans too, man. Like you can't expect them to all of a sudden be perfect. Now, you can hold them accountable for the bad things they do. That's not what I'm saying, but there's this idea that like you can't say the wrong thing if you're a jerk, or if you're a jackass, or if you whatever, that you somehow can't be good at your job in politics. I don't like that. I believe that it's a job. It's a job.
Dude,
and you can do the job well or poorly, and that's all that matters.
Trump did have the best morals, I'd say, from like a
No.
Christian perspective. I'm not judging.
I don't know if you have a girlfriend, but you probably wouldn't want her to go. Oh, you're married. You probably wouldn't want your wife to go apply for a job in his office, right?
I mean, he might. If I trust her, you know, and he's like, "Hey, nice ass."
Well, we'll see. Well, see. Here's the thing. I just wouldn't want my girl to have to deal with that. I'd rather her avoid that entirely. So that's all I'm saying. Like, not that any shit's gonna happen. I'm saying like that she'll have to punch him in the face, and then we'll have, you know. So I'll have Secret Service pulling my girlfriend off of an old man, and it'll be hilarious. But the trouble we don't need.
But I don't. I mean, morals are. I don't think it's the president's definitely some type of a leader. And, you know, kindergartners should be able to watch him talk a little bit here and there. But, I mean, he's also, I liked his attitude as far, I guess I'm an adult. Maybe I'd feel differently if I was trying to teach my kids lessons and I was like, this is the president. But I'm not, I don't have kids. So I'm just like, yo, this guy's a dog, and that's what we kind of need. We need someone to go in there and tell, yo, China, this is what's up. Yo, Germany, pay your bills. Like, we kind of need a fighter in there.
Well, I mean, I believe it's important to teach kids the power of assertiveness, and the power of, like, sometimes you need to call shit out, and sometimes you need to not be. Like, you can't be timid and a doormat your entire life and expect to get shit done. Like, that's just not how it works.
Exactly.
You know, if every time that someone you wanted to hire came and, like, if they thought every time I ask him for a raise he'll give it to me, eventually you're going out of business, right? like in the real world, you can't just give and like things work out. There's trade-off. There's always trade-off.
I think about that all the time, and that's one of the problems with the left. It's yes, being nice is important, but it's also not a formula that is going to. You can't be nice all the time. You just can't. It doesn't work. If you're the nicest person ever, then who knows where you'll end up, because you'll say yes to everything. You'll try to help every single person. You'll care about every single fly that flies by, and okay, so you don't care about the fly. Now you're a bad person because you didn't care about the fly. It's like you get lost in the. So you have to admit at some point you're going to be like a fucker sometimes, and if if you can accept that, and then be good at the line between caring and kind and nice in the right places, but knowing that you're not a savior. You can't be nice all the time, and the left gets in that.
You can still have integrity and be a jackass. It is possible.
And you got to
be you can be mean.
Know when to play those cards.
Yeah. If you're being mean to a really, really nice, innocent child that has Down syndrome, you're a jackass. But if you're an asshole to corrupt special interest groups that are screwing over the American taxpayer,
exactly,
I'm cool. I'm Gucci with that. I don't mind at all.
Yeah. It's a powerful skill. I mean, Jordan Peterson, one of my favorite people, he talks about one of the reasons men are more successful than women is because they have a higher
aggression, higher assertiveness,
disagreeability,
agreeability,
agreeability, and not wanting conflict in a person-to-person interaction it correlates directly with like how much money that you'll make in your career, because you got to be able to deal with those things. If it's someone's doing wrong to you, you have to be able to say to them, you have to be comfortable in the situation, calling them out to their face. And that takes practice. That's not nice, but it's an important life skill. It's an important life skill.
Yeah. Yeah. I call the way in which the left has gone nutty now, I call it the religion of niceness, where everything is about how nice you appear to be. Because if you fat shame, what's the black chick that everyone talks about whenever Lizzo. Yeah, exactly. If you fat shame Lizzo, they'll have but if you fat shame Trump, it's all cool, right? So it's always it's about the appearance of being nice to the right people. It's very much a maternal sort of a phenomenon, because it's like it's mama bear energy. It's not aggression and assertiveness in and of itself. It's in the service of protecting somebody, in the service of looking out for the little cub.
And it never
this aggression against the bully, the predator, the whatever. It's not the same as like just aggression or assertiveness in and of itself. It's interesting.
And the logic never adds up, because if you set your line in the sand that this is who we protect and don't make fun of, then it goes to the next thing and the next thing, and it doesn't add up, because like you said, you can't fat shame Lizzo, but you can fat shame Trump. And then with COVID, weight is one of the biggest problems. And if you actually do care about the individual who you're trying to keep safe, you tell them to get their ass to the gym and eat healthy. And that's caring. But you already said you can't do that. So it's just confusing and messes with your head, and it never adds up. And that's why it doesn't work.
That's why you can't sacrifice niceness, or you can't sacrifice truth to niceness. You have to have, I'm all for valuing niceness, but truth is supreme. Like, because here's the thing, when you start to say my feelings, my emotions, my intuition, anything, if you start saying anything is more important than the truth, then you're saying anything is more important than perceiving reality correctly. And once you start to say, I don't care about perceiving reality correctly, you're going to operate incompetently within it, right? You have to know the world to accomplish what you want to accomplish. So if you're willing to just say, screw it, I don't care, you're going to be lost. You'll literally be a little bit insane.
Well put. And if people don't fight back, the country we're going to lose the country, because everyone will just be idiots, and nothing will make sense. So when I was all for Trump, and I'm still kind of like the guy. I mean, I don't know what he's going to do next. It's not really about him. But I felt like it was a nice little slap back to that culture that started to rise in 2015, 2016, 2007. I feel like it's gotten better.
If you think about...
that scares me. Being a wimps who care about niceness over truth, that is not going to be the country I'm going to live in, and I'll fight back against that.
Thank God we had Trump instead of Ted Cruz these last 5-6 years.
It's true.
Like there's the energy and the force of the left and everything that's gone forward in this sort of totalitarian moment with COVID and everything. And my only concern with it is not like masks or how effective they are or aren't, or vaccines and how effective they are or aren't, or whatever. We should have reason and thought and follow the evidence and trust whatever sources we have on it. But because of these anti-vax, Trump supporting, science denying, climate change denying Republicans, they can be forced at the point of government gun to do whatever. If you demonize someone enough, you'll say they don't deserve human rights anymore. And we've been under threat of that happening, where I know people who are literally like, well, if they're too stupid to not get the vaccine, then we're just going to have to force it. And it's like, what if their doctor said they shouldn't get the vaccine because they have lymph node issues or something like that? What if they already got the vaccine, but they don't have the documentation because they didn't think they'd have to keep a card to go to Costco? There's so many just small parts in which this falls apart, and it's over the line. But because the other side is so demonized, they're willing to pull the trigger on it. And it's against their values. Like many left, here's the most beautiful moment of the last year and a half. It was when the black dude who's gay who did the devil video. Why?
Lil Nas X.
Lil Nas X did his video, and at the same time, we were talking about Facebook and all these big tech platforms manipulating and censoring things. And so the right wingers were saying this art needs to be kicked off of the internet, and left wingers were defending the rights of corporations. And I was just like the right was saying screw free speech, and the left was defending corporations. And I was just like, dude, I'm in La La Land right now. I'm like, you guys don't even understand how hilarious and backwards this is right now. Like you guys won't shut up about free speech and college campus censorship and all this crap, but then Little Nas X does his thing and it's whatever. And then over here, you guys talk about the evils of corporations and lobbyists and their power, but when they start literally controlling how we speak, you're like, well, businesses have the right to do what they want. It's like, are you kidding me, bro? Are you kidding me? Come on now. And it's just tribalism. Just tribalism.
It's like
it's not logic.
My body, my choice. A common call on the left
until the vaccine. Yep.
Yeah. It's the same thing, and it's funny. And on both sides, it's being one-sided is and I have heard this over and over and over. And maybe I'm just in the right circles, listening to the right people. But I do feel like the message is getting through. Not having Trump there does help, but you can't look at life through one political lens and be on one side. You have to be nuanced. You have to respect the other side. It's what the country's always done. Nuanced conversation. It makes you smarter. I feel like that mess is breaking through.
Well, really and you know, not to constantly talk about the man, but Trump helped that in many ways. He was the first president to go into his presidency supporting gay marriage and being cool with it. He broke a lot of economic norms for the right, like the idea of tariffs and the idea of negotiating trade deals and all these sorts of government manipulations into the market were taboo. It was all free market equals free trade, so it's all about freedom.
Average person doesn't care about that. I do think he could have done a little better job at being the bipartisan president. Like,
for sure.
You know, George Floyd situation. Stand up at a podium, say we're all Americans, we all love each other. That's it. He didn't do that. I mean, I thought that was a very simple layup opportunity for a president. The country is kind of fighting. The kids are fighting. It's just silly stuff. Just stand up there, say something uniting, and walk away. Yeah. He never Trump, did that.
So I firmly agree with the idea that Trump was incapable of being a uniter. Like he tried to say when people asked him, well, how do you think you'll unite the country? And his response was like, jobs. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That was his response. And like, to me, that was him getting around the fact that he's like, I'm not, like, he didn't want to say I'm not a uniter.
Right.
But I think even he understood he wasn't even, like, his personality is almost incapable of it. Like I think it's our job to be united regardless of who's in office. And like, we're seeing this under Biden. I still am an American with every single Biden supporter that's there right now, regardless of what he does. Because like, it's about things bigger than either Trump or Biden or Obama. You know, there's 330 million people here, man.
Yeah, when Biden won, and I like Trump, one of the first things I said was, yo, if you guys are looking for unity, I'm in. Like, I want Biden to be great. Like, I do care about being united because, you know, I like positivity. I don't want people to feel like they're stuck in the ghetto and there's nothing they can do to change. I don't want people to feel like there's nothing they can do with these. I want everyone to be happy, and that comes from kind of a positive vibe, a unified country. So I want that, and I think that Biden does kind of present the opportunity for that to be a little easier. Now, here's what I don't like. I think that if the media is the worst. I hate the media and the left and how much they just tear down Trump and the Republicans. And then now that they got their guy in, everything's all good. Like, okay, so we're not going to be unified unless the media allows us to be. I don't like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of what's happening now.
Yeah. Yeah, the media has definitely changed their approach wholesale. They've changed their tone. And the reason why is because Biden is an animal of the establishment, so like he'll only operate within sort of the typical bounds of stuff, so the system isn't threatened by him. But because Trump was willing to act totally independently, didn't care about special interests, didn't care about the standard practices and norms. The standard practices and norms of Washington. You know, they turned on him and they hated him because he wasn't controllable and they had to get him out. And so
I'm surprised
it wasn't about analyzing what he's doing well. It was about getting him out.
I'm surprised he did so many traditional media events. Surprised he didn't like live stream more, or you know, he talked directly to the public, like I said, at his rallies. But he would go to the press room and have people ask him questions, or out on the lawn and have the real media ask him questions. I'm surprised he didn't do more direct, like through like a live stream or something.
He should have done more podcasts and more modern media. He could have really transformed. Like, he did a good job of destroying the credibility of those corporate institutions, and I think rightly so. You need to understand it's corporate news just as much as it is news, right? And you have to understand that comes with all sorts of issues.
Never knew that. I was younger. I mean, I wasn't paying attention to politics. I never knew how one-sided and corporate and message-based the news is. And I see it now so clearly. And I never knew. He taught me that.
Yeah. It's another example of something that I'm a firm believer in a lot of what Trump did was literally like educational theater, meaning like he did it to not explain to you how to do things, but to show you how to do things. So like when he had his tax changes, deregulation, plus these trade issues, plus all this stuff, there's all these little individual economic metrics you could follow to see what is Fox Business saying, what is Jim Cramer or whatever saying, you know, what is Bloomberg whatever saying, what is The Economist saying, and then what is Trump saying, and then what is actually happening. And you could track all that, and as I tracked all that, I learned so much about the way the economy actually works. Like they were saying, tariffs, this is the best example, tariffs are a tax on consumption or a tax on consumers. That was the tagline. The inflation, the increases in prices never showed up because what they were taxing, where the taxes were coming from, was the gap between the cost of production in China and the price point in the United States. It was that money in between and that's all businesses have that margin. That's how that's the profit margin, literally. Right. That's where the money was coming from, because like if they raised their prices against other producers that could keep their prices the same, they would just lose out on market share. So they had to eat into their profits. So like little nuances like that only showed up because I was paying attention and listening to what everyone was saying and comparing the data and what was showing up versus what they were saying. And that is very important. And Trump was great at creating experience rapidly, creating activity and metrics and disruptions and things to look at and pay attention to nonstop. And the level of attention that Americans spend on politics now is got to be 5 times what it was before. Like it's impossible to overstate it, man.
It went up with Trump. I mean, literally, politics used to be this like boring, nerdy stuff. I felt like, I'm sure other people have different perspective, but everyone,
even people that are in politics, if they're honest, will say it's nerdy, esoteric shit. Like
Trump made every single person care about politics, and that was very educational for the country. Also a little toxic and exhausting for the country too, though. Yeah. So now we're all a little smarter, a little more informed, aware of this stuff. I gotta say, I think about politics less because I try not to think about it during him, but it's just he did make it really hard. He had the attention on it all the time, and if everyone else is talking about it, the news is talking about it, social media is talking about it, then you think about it, and you know you're trying to, even as like a podcast, trying to talk about what's going on in the world. You know, I feel like a lot more people are willing to talk about cryptocurrency or sports, which I love sports, but I think talking about them is kind of not that interesting because it's like, I like this team. It's kind of like the bad part of politics. You know, just the boring, I'm on this side, no matter what. Then you trade to this team. Now I like this guy because he's on my team. That's
I'm an MMA fan and boxing fan more so than the sports stuff. I was always, when I got into football in high school and powerlifting and everything, I gravitated towards powerlifting because it was just me on my own. And it was also, like, to be fair, emotionally and like as an introvert type of thing and like all those different dynamics, dealing with school and dealing with the football team and all that was too much for me. So like I
Yeah.
practiced with the football team, and then when school showed up, I quit. But the whole thing, like the group sports thing, because of my own issues, honestly, like there's no other way to put it. Because of my own issues, it was not my track. Being an individualist, being more self-reliant, and I only say that because I like when you normally say, well, I stand on my own and I'm independent, whatever. Like I'm afraid of communicating that it was some sort of that it wasn't also a function of like I couldn't handle or compete and like deal with those other arenas. And so I could only kind of handle being on my own and trying to like slowly build up. And now I could do a podcast. I can, I work really well in business environments. Like I'm much more competent than I was then. But at the time I just needed that separation. But I love individualist sports for that reason, because it's much more interesting to me. Like you get to talk about the techniques of an individual athlete rather than which team spent the most money on which acquisition last year. It's very much like.
But you understand, it's a huge market of the average person.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Saturdays in the fall, college football. Sundays in the fall, NFL. It's your whole environment, and no one is obsessing over politics and the left and the right. So, like sports are definitely healthy for the country.
Yeah, they need to be a safe haven for sure.
Yeah, but if you're interested in like intellectual conversations and topics, sports is a little lame in that sense to talk about all the time. But I feel like it's healthy for the country.
Yeah, and it just depends on how certain people talk about sports too. There's certain people that are real stats guys and like talk about, you could get into the weeds and stuff. But yeah, it's interesting because I can recognize that I'm gonna be out of touch with people if I'm not plugged into sports.
It's true.
I recognized that a long time ago, and I recognize for the sake of my political stuff and for the sake of being connected to Americans, it's something I need to kind of wake up with a little bit and get more plugged into. And I was always the kind of person that like I only started listening to what was happening in the NFL season around the bye week, around week 7, week 8. Are the Kansas Chiefs 7-0 again? Those kinds of questions. I see who's looking good. Are the Patriots again going to have a good year? Are they doing whatever? And then around the playoffs is when I ask like, okay, who's making moves? And I'll usually watch the Super Bowl and the AFC NFC championships. And that was kind of it for years. And then when it got political, and a lot of that stuff started to happen, I even pulled back from that and just stopped. I haven't watched the Super Bowl in 2 or 3 years. Like I sat there for one and watched 15 minutes of it and then was doing something else. But it's not a good thing. I think I need to be more in touch with the community in that way. And even if it gets political and I don't like the politics, that doesn't mean I need to withdraw fully. I wasn't that invested, so it's not like I'm some boycotter, but
and you definitely don't need to spend all your time watching it like a lot of people. Just know a couple headlines so you can chomp it up with someone when it comes up. But yeah, that seems fine. And yeah, the kneeling, that was a fun one. That was during Trump, so of course it was something that Americans love that was non-political. I know a lot of people who voted for Trump and then didn't vote for him for one reason, and the reason was they were sick of talking about politics. It ruined their football. It ruined their interactions with family members. Politics never used to be this big part of their life. They voted for Trump because they thought he was cool. They still didn't care about politics. And now it's like all surrounding them. And they still might like him, but they just want to talk about for the sports, like the actual linemen. And they want to just, eat chips and drink beer and not have to have this heaviness of politics surrounding them all the time. And Trump could have stepped back a little bit and let the country have that a little bit. He messed up in that way, I think.
He could never find the time to pull back and give the people some breathing room. He was chase you down like a animal with blood in its mouth kind of a person, and that's part of the reason why he got so much done. But yeah, he's like just like a drum beat that just won't stop at a high pace, just like boom, 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 boom,
And I love that that's what a successful business person is like. Just I'm a hard worker. That's like one of my things. Work hard. Like I love it. And I'm always going. And like that's what it takes. And some people are like, dude, even like not everyone
Calm
knows how
down.
yeah, not everyone knows how hard I work. But like my mom or like some of my employees that, dude, chill out, man. But that is, I love. Not everyone needs to do that. You need to be wired right, and you need to train yourself right. But
Yeah.
every great, intense business person, athlete does have that, and he had that, and I like that about him. But when you throw it on the public, it's like it exhausts. It exhausts them. It exhausts them.
Yeah. The way a boss talks to you is not going to be the way a politician talks to you, and that made a huge difference. Like, and it's interesting because Trump. No, I lost it. It's gone. I'll let it go.
Yeah, and that's a good way with Trump. Yeah, we kind of got to let him go. I mean, I don't care if he runs again. We'll see what happens, but I'm just enjoying the moment right now.
I think we'd be better off if he didn't. My only issue is I don't know who can replace him appropriately. There's no one, both on the policy front and on the
there's no one
the
like
good
him,
side, the good side of his rhetoric. Like the courageous side of his rhetoric. I don't know anyone that's in his league, anyone that is an adequate replacement.
Oh, I know who. And here's who I want to be president next. I don't care what party, but I love Mark Cuban as a political figure.
I feel like he's usually,
He's bold. He's bold. He's from outside of the political spectrum. He has been. He's shown empathy. Like he was with the Black Lives Matter stuff a little bit, and I'm cool with that because he's I think he's Trump with the empathy angle and with I think he could be Trump but polished. And capitalism, loves capitalism, understands economics, understands business on a big level, and understands the average person. He is smart. He's wise. He's willing to be bold. He's willing to talk shit when he needs to. And he can soak in a little bit of that empathy thing that the left has going and play that and just accept it and soak it in, but also talk to those people and tell them to stop being babies.
Yeah.
As long as his policies are the NBA and the China, you want to make sure he's not too connected to China and stuff. But I think he could be a great president.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's the beautiful thing. And I want to frame the China issue appropriately. They are not a direct military threat to the United States or even a direct existential threat to the United States. They will economically try to take advantage of us. They will try to gain the upper hand with overall GDP and with bought for, or paid for, I should say, influence across the world. And we do have concerns with our relationship with China being tainted by our leadership being in bed with them. But with like a Mark Cuban type, let's say even if he's not going to, on the trade front or on reigning in China, not going to do a lot, on the rest of the world and how he would influence the rest of the world, I think he would still have a tremendous amount of good influence and push things in the right direction. So like the China issue, I would rather someone who can speak up and be independent from China, but you can still do quite a lot of good sort of to the side of it.
Which, if he runs for president, that will be one thing I need to hear him say. Like I'm not in bed with. And here's the thing about a Trump and a Cuban, and honestly, even a Biden because he's old. They're not trying to make money. They have. I mean, Biden is different. The age. It's like, okay, what are you trying to make some plan to be rich? You're too old. Like you're not trying to build wealth at this point. At this point in your life, it's more about legacy. Trump and Cuban, they have so much of their own money and Cuban has more money than Trump, I think, and that he's not going to do something to line his pockets. It's bigger than that. I do believe that. I believe that with Trump.
Well, the beautiful thing about successful business people is they have all the instincts of preserving money, using money well. But once you have enough money, you don't have the desperation or you don't have the desperation for money, and you're not going to be wooed by money. Like Trump could negotiate with Boeing about trillions of dollars on certain military equipment and stuff like that. And like purchases and stuff, or billions, I should say. He could deal with those kinds of numbers without it like making him, flinch because he had been used to big numbers and lots of money for a long time. Like you're not when you don't have money and you're not used to dealing with large amounts of money, it'll freak you out. But yeah, people get that backwards, where they think that because you have a lot of money, you're greedy and you're just totally controlled by the pursuit of money, and you're desperate to make it any which way you can. And it's like, actually, at a certain point, it frees you from worrying about money. And what's interesting is all the people on the left, almost all of them, that talk shit on capitalism or say that like ambition, the bad sides of ambition are bad, or greed is bad, and all this, they all basically, like in the way they talk about whether it's systemic racism, or they talk about poor people suffering, or they talk about their own success, or everyone paying their fair share. It's all with the understanding that they want money too, right?
Yeah.
Like the rich person wants money, you want money, but they want to like put them on different moral planes. And it's like me, I can say confidently I'm not a materialistic person. I had to be forced by my girlfriend to buy enough clothes to make sure I had enough clothes to get through the week. I just don't. I bought a Prius because I wanted to be fuel efficient. I don't give a shit about what anyone thinks about the car
I got a Tesla.
or about cars in general. I'm not a materialistic person, so I could say, like, for me, but here's the thing. I recognize we need resources and material stuff to get along, and the more resources you have, the more you can do. And if you're rich and successful in our society, you get a certain amount of prestige and respect, and you develop competence when you do it. So even without being materialistic, I see all this value in it. And then I see these other people that are very materialistic, and they like want to judge other people. I think it's just projecting, where like they're uncomfortable with, and I understand that, being uncomfortable with wanting money. Like you think it's greedy, but it's very exactly. You've never been like that? You said that?
Never, no. Yeah. Like, wanting money is good. I'm sorry. Like, don't you? I'm not necessarily materialistic either. Like, I bought this building. This building was like $3 million, but I'm like broke now because I love the building, and the I have to pay my payroll every 2 weeks. It's massive. I need money for that. But like, I know, but I care. I'm not a hoarder.
The day we see Sean Lowery go blow up a $10,000 ring just for fun, that's the day we'll say you're materialistic. But yeah, just because you have money and you put it into businesses and you're building stuff and you enjoy the process, I don't.
That's what I like. That's what I like money for. But in order to be chasing that, you have to be chasing money. And yeah, I have no shame in saying that I want to be rich. I do. I trust myself to be rich because I think I'll do the right things, and I'm never just gonna. The fear is that they think rich people are gonna get their money, store it in the bank in a low interest savings account, and not do anything with it. That's not how really rich people think. I mean, if they are just ambitious to the core, then they're gonna want to invest that in different businesses, in different investments, in different things, and those things will generate jobs. No rich person just keeps it. It's boring. And I'm after the chase. I love the chase, and I want to be rich. The more money I get, the more things I get. And by things, I don't mean cars or clothes. I mean like buildings, which now I can have more production capacity, which means I need to hire more people. And now on this side of my building, I have my podcast area, which is like something else I'm trying to start up from scratch, like a content-based business. And I haven't made any money doing that, but I spend time doing that because I enjoy it. And I like spreading the message of entrepreneurship. And am I greedy in that sense? No. Do I want to make money from it? Yeah, but I understand that business, you can't be obsessed with making money right away. Then maybe at some point you can make a lot and then do more of that. You gotta go put it back. And it's the game that I love, and money's part of that. So I'm not going to say I have any shame in making money, because if I have it, I'm going to keep doing things with it that I think maybe not will make the world a better place, but will make people's lives better, who I employ, who I can touch. And I have no shame in saying that. Now, not everyone is an entrepreneur, and I've actually had to learn that. Because if I give advice to somebody, I'm giving them, quit your job, start a business, get your back against the wall, go broke. Like, not everyone can do that. And I've had to learn that, and I get that. So from the average person who does see a super ambitious person, they know that they're never you shouldn't. If you have entrepreneurial itch, you should go after it. If you don't, that's fine. You can live a very happy life, not being as crazy as I am. But in that sense, you have to understand that, yes, some people are going to have more money than you, but also you should still want money. You should still try to get that 10% raise. You should still try to make some smart investments with your extra money. Instead of letting it sit in a savings account, maybe invest in a few things that are a little bit of a gamble that you can make money on. don't lose all your savings. That's not what I'm saying. But don't be so much against money that you're not willing to take risks to get more of it for yourself. Because that's a good thing to have more money. Because then you can maybe hire someone to mow your lawn, enjoy your time more, and then give someone a job that you used to do. You can now spend raising your kids and enjoying your time. And now you gave someone a job mowing your lawn. In your own little world, you just use your money to create a better life for yourself and for someone else. Money's never bad. But if you're not going to be as ambitious as the Bezos is, or like someone like me on a smaller level, you have to be comfortable knowing that other people are going to go out there and be making a lot of money. And people don't like, they're like, no. But that's where you are being a hypocrite.
Yeah. They're like, I want all the safety and all the security of a job and guaranteed retirement and everything. But if anyone ventures out beyond that and they're more successful than I am, that's not fair.
Yeah, exactly. You can't say.
So this might be going a little too deep, but it's like it's very much a tribalism mentality versus like the modern reality of the world. So like in the tribe, we had a fixed amount of food, and if you had more, I had less. If you're taking more, you're being greedy. But once we went to the agricultural stage of humanity, if you own this land and you produce, or sorry, if I own this land and I produce 10 units of food, and then you buy this land because you can, with the same land, produce 30 units of food, there's more food.
More food.
Right? And like I might be over here being a blacksmith, and then you're over there making the food, and then we both have more metal stuff and more. And what's the beauty and the evil of all of this is all just with humans. Because like all of the raw materials to make every business and every device and everything that's ever existed was there at the beginning. It didn't do anything until humans showed up and used their creative and productive capacity to turn it into something, to create value. And
jealousy is such a negative, bad, natural feeling.
It's one of the 7 deadly sins.
Yep, it's very natural. Everyone will be jealous. You have to train yourself not to be jealous because it's a terrible thing. If you don't have enough money for food and shelter and clothing, then you got to do something, and it's probably going to involve getting a job, which will need to be someone rich that gave it to you. But if you are comfortable and you're enjoying your life, why be jealous of someone that is enjoying their life doing something bigger? I mean, there's always someone bigger. There's always someone to be jealous of for pretty much everyone. If you want to be a power lifter, there's always going to be, people that are better power lifters. If you want to be a mom, there are people that are better moms. And if you're an entrepreneur, so like everyone is in the business because it's humans and resources and survival. Everyone's in the game of getting money. Like you don't even get an option out of it, unfortunately. Like there is no other path. And so just because some people are better in that particular game than you are, doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you or anything uniquely like special or metaphysically like by God valuable about them. They're just better at that one activity than you are. Like if you, Sean, played basketball with some other dude who's way better at basketball, you'll feel like a loser. But then if you guys go compete in the entrepreneurial arena, then you're like, haha, I'm kicking your ass. And so it's about finding your place in the hierarchies to find a place where you can be competent and do well and find. And so here's the thing. I firmly believe that we discover and choose the meaning in our life. It's not something preset. It's not something that you know, what is the meaning of life? The meaning of life is to go find meaning in life. It's to go go get it instead of find it. It's not just there. Happiness. I usually say like happiness, which is essentially kind of the same thing. It's like being satisfied with where you're at, your meaning. And deeper happiness is attached to meaning.
Happiness like I just had an orgasm happiness, or happiness like I had a great meal happiness. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about satisfaction with your life.
Exactly. And there's little ways you can increase that. Like if you aren't going to go the entrepreneur route and you're happy with your life and you're comfortable, but you want to have like one more vacation or something, you want a little more money. Well, then go try to work hard for a couple months in your own job and try to get a promotion, or try to create. You don't have to start your own business, but do something small within your job that can create you more money, and you'll have the money. But also, I think all humans get some type of reward, happiness from the accomplishment. So you accomplish something. So you set out a goal, you accomplish it, and now you're going to get some satisfaction from that, plus the money element. But more importantly, that feeling that you get that, all right, I know I'm not trying to be Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, but look, I just set out for this goal. I went out on a limb. Wasn't the biggest limb in the world, but I accomplished that something. That satisfaction that you get is you got to try to achieve things a little bit here and there. And that's a great feeling. And that's a great way to achieve that meaning, that happiness, I think. And everyone can find it on their own scale. But it means that you're going to have, then you have to go out. I'm going to go do this, do it. It'll take time over extended period of time. But if you do it, it doesn't have to be something major. It could be losing 20 pounds. That feeling, I think, it's always got to be a little something like that. Like, I think people die after they have nothing left to do. And having something to do, having whatever scale you put it at, which you mentioned, you're saying everyone has to find their own meaning, their own place. Yeah, everyone has to find their own little task that they enjoy and they can go accomplish. And I think that's what keeps people alive. And if it keeps you alive, there's something in that DNA that keeps you happy. And everyone's got to find it on their own level.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I believe you're absolutely right. And I would just, the only nuance to that I would say, and this is just from my own experience, is because we have different brains neurologically, depending on the person you are, not everyone gets the same kind of a reward from accomplishment as other people. Me, I don't. I've never really sat back and there's a job done and I'm like, wow, I'm really happy. For me, it's the trajectory and the process and just sort of feeling like I'm slowly moving along. There's not been a lot of real specific points where I feel like I'm satisfied by something. And maybe it's just because it took a much more potent form of meaning to trigger it with me because of whatever, because like this politics stuff is deeply meaningful. It's you know, at the core of our civilization. Right. So to me, it's very, very important. And I was a car detailer before this. So like that, you know, there's different things there for me.
You said that you felt like you kind of had to do this because you saw the spot. Like you don't mind. You just want to make sure that it's out there. So that's true. You know, when I say accomplishment, I mean, I'm all about like the grind and the process because that is required, I guess, for like accomplishment. How do you define accomplishment? I guess happiness, and I guess that's the entrepreneur in me. That's like keep going, let's keep going. But you do have to learn to love the grind and the process, which I do.
The thing is, like, I think it's a beautiful thing when you have that kind of a reward programming, and it's gotten better for me where I feel I get little pings of more meaning and satisfaction the more on track I am. But I feel like just because I understand, like literally some people are more sensitive neurologically to positive emotion and to negative emotion. And so some people will be consumed with everything they didn't do and all the failings that they had. And other people will be more concerned with and focus on what they did get done and what they've accomplished and like how they're getting closer to their goals. And so you're tilted in one direction by nature, and then you can shift your way over with work. And I've done that.
Do you put yourself in the camp that focus, like the first part you said, focused on like more of the dwelling on the negative things, or?
Yeah. Naturally, I was 100% on that side where almost like literally soul crushing depression. Everything is negative. Yeah, and a vortex of the worst scenario. Every scenario in my life, I would see how it would go to the worst side and be emotionally consumed by it.
I do agree with you that it's a lot of how you're born, because my mom always says when I was a young mom, I'm going to raise these kids great, and she did, but she raised me and my brother the same, and she always noticed that from the very beginning, even as a baby, as I was growing up, I was a little more like optimistic and he was a little more like pessimistic, and she swears it's just a natural thing, and that kind of does make, and I do feel like I'm a natural optimist and looking at the positive side. And maybe I'm lucky, I don't know. I've also done a lot of reading and studying and training to go towards that. But the goal, like you said earlier, to not focus on the negatives or the things you can't control, to focus on, I guess they're a little different, but it's you control where your focus goes. And
so like one is
the positive side.
So one is like if you highlight the strengths of somebody and you highlight the weaknesses of somebody, they're like different ways of you're not going to talk nearly what you're talking about aren't going to be close to each other. They're different tracks. So it's literally just how you perceive the world. If you're more inclined to looking for danger than looking for opportunity, like that's the difference. And it's so what helped me and what sort of changes things is I recognize that it costs a bunch of emotional resources when you're consumed in a negative thought. And when you have positive action and positive feelings, it fuels you emotionally. So by limiting my focus and by getting my mind disciplined into the right areas, I was able to negate the negative and feed the positive enough to start building momentum. And now I'm doing a podcast 3 to 5 times a week. I'm going to try to get an ebook out. I'm, going to maybe run for office one day in the next few years. I mean, most definitely, but I say maybe just because of tax reasons. Just because I know there's always the like, so are you running yet? When can we start regulating what you do, But
yeah, that's amazing. I'll buy the book and everything. But you had to work at that, right?
27 years, man. When I was 7 and 8 years old, I knew, I was just certain things, it was just a grind to not be negative. And it took, 20 years of psychological work to get to that point. When I was 15, so 12 years ago, my girlfriend, she wasn't my girlfriend at the time, but we were close friends and I wanted to date her, said I was too immature to date. And so it put me on a path of saying, I need to become the kind of man that will attract her or the kind of woman I want. And so it was a concerted effort in my personal life to look for admirable men, to emulate admirable men, and to try to move that. So it's sex drive
change
for me. Yeah, it is a powerful drive for sure. And but for me, so the change can come sometimes microscopically every day over the course of many years, and it's like compound interest. Like in the beginning, you're making no gains, but at some point the curve starts to tick upwards, and you can gain a little momentum. And so even if it took 10 years or 12 years or whatever it is to get, so my advice to everybody kind of getting to maybe where this line of thinking is going is have hope and faith that you will get your shit together, that you will turn that corner and things will get positive. And it's not a dark storm for your entire life. That you can get your way out of it. The storm will pass, even if it's a long one.
Right. And and acknowledge where you're at. I mean, I love this topic of depression, anxiety. I had experts come on my podcast and talk about it. Now, I gotta be honest, I don't think I've ever had anxiety ever, which is probably a little bit of natural, but also I've worked at it. But so it's hard for me to come from that angle. So I've thought about it a lot. It's a real thing. A lot of the times there's the naturalness, and then there's the mindset, and then there's the situations. Yeah. There's the situations. Yeah. A lot of the time it's a depression state is tied with a negative situation. So just it's tough for people probably, but just to understand this and to acknowledge it's better to be positive and just on paper. And I'm not there. I'm not there, but I want to be. That's a big step, I feel like, just to say that you want to get there. And then understanding everything you just said, getting there little by little, just saying it out loud. Why am I thinking this bad thing's going to happen when there's such a tiny percentage chance of it happening? It's not practical. So let me just force. And something I'm working on now and I've been working on it this whole time, is I'm trying to eliminate the word like from my vocabulary, because I say it way too often in my podcast. It annoys me when I listen back to it. But it's one of those things that I'm doing the same thing now. I'm consciously thinking about the thing and then trying to improve on it. So I feel like it's the same process, and anyone can do it. Just gotta, it's and I think you're a great model for that, learning more about you through this, that, you can work on being more positive, knowing that that's the goal through the work. And I think you're a great example of that story. So keep telling that story too, along with other nuanced politics stuff, because that's my favorite thing.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I will. I'll keep saying it. It is cool. It's interesting that that what people get bogged down into. So it's interesting you talk about not feeling anxiety very much. It's very much like if you're pre-framed to look at potential ways in which things will go wrong in the future, that will facilitate anxiety. That's literally, it's anticipating things going badly, running through those scenarios in your head. And when we run through scenarios in our head, we're emotionally going through the story a little bit. Like we're
It's like
experiencing it
happening.
on a lower level.
Yeah.
And so, and it's the same thing with the positive thing. If you're thinking about, okay, I'm going to have this conversation, we're going to go through these topics, it's going to go this way and this way, and I'm going to branch off in these interesting ways. And I think he'll really show something here with this type of like when you're thinking about building and thinking in that positive framework, all sorts of things start to pop into your head.
It's
like that. It's kind of like a flashlight in a dark room. You point it first, then you turn it on, and wherever you turn it on, it shows you certain things. And so if it's negative, it'll show you a bunch of negative things. If it's positive, it'll show you a bunch of positive things. And it'll, and like there's strengths to being a negative person, because I feel like I'm very good at looking for red flags in other people. Not red flags in terms of they're this perfect person, but are they emotionally or psychologically a threat to me? Are they a sketchy person? Are they someone that has these faults in the way they think? I feel like I can pick up on that very quickly, because I'm afraid of how it'll go badly with that person. And so all those things, almost within 10 seconds of meeting someone, I feel like I can get a good gut level grasp of that kind of thing.
I've been prone to the opposite. I've been prone to, being so positive that I don't see that in people sometimes. I mean, I'm pretty good at reading people, but I've been told
you
that
see the best in people, and I see the worst in people, like that. And it's interesting because I can recognize the beauty and the value in people, but I am prone to being judgmental and to having that. I see the red flags immediately, and I'm on the lookout. The thing is, I'm on the lookout for what could go wrong. You're on the path of figuring out how to make good things happen.
I never think about what could go wrong. Yeah. And it's got me in trouble a little bit. Like I've been through some tough times in business where I should have been a little more careful with the money, and then I got into a bad situation. But then when I was in that bad situation, I made that positive, because I was like, all right, we're going to make a comeback. It's going to be great. But if you had to pick one, I think everyone should pick the positive frame. But there are some
being negative is easier. Being negative is easier, in my opinion. Sticking to the positive is harder. And you don't get anything done critiquing the world. Like you don't get anything done just being negative. Like it by definition, almost like you're just saying no, not this, that's bad, watch out, no, don't do that, instead of, oh, look at this, what's going on here, let's check this out,
let me try this, it might work.
Let me try this, exactly. And also, perfect is the enemy of the good. You just got to get in there and get some experience and just start leveling up your level of skills through repetitions in the game, right? Like imagine if someone said, I want to study basketball for 10 years before I go on to the court, right? But with so many things in life, we're like, well, and I'm number one example of this, I need to understand every intricacy of the philosophy underlying blah, blah, blah. Then I'll take my first step forward, right? And like with this politics stuff, I probably should have started this podcast 3 years ago. But I'm here now. I'm doing it. I'm not going to spend time negatively wasting my time thinking about it. But I shouldn't have been so concerned with it being perfect. I should have just gotten in there and started leveling. Like whatever I can do is good enough to start getting the reps in, to start playing the game, and then I'll get better and better at the game. Like with basketball, I'm going to start playing now. I'll go back. I'll do my homework. I'll play some more. I'll go back. I'll do my homework. Whereas if it was just like, I'm going to study basketball theory for 10 years and not go do physical conditioning, it's like day one, you're going to look like a fool who's a smart ass and annoying. Like
exactly.
That's all you got.
It makes no sense. So you're a super smart guy, and you're so young, and got a bright future, I think.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think so too. That's what I'm planning on. I want the darkness to be behind me and the brightness to be before me. That's the life I want. So
you got a great lane. Was it the UnCommon conversation?
Yep.
I love that. And being politically nuanced on both sides, it makes you just smarter in general. Looking at things from both angles and trying to analyze it without a side, then you become smarter.
I have opinions. Like a lot of people mistake that about moderates or whatever. Or at least when they hear I'm a moderate, they think flip flop or milk toast, whatever. And I'm like, no. Trust me, I have opinions. It's just like I really care about understanding. So the nuance that is there to be seen, I want to see it. And that's different than saying I want to show you how smart I am in this conversation, or prove to you how I know X, Y, or Z about politics or whatever. Much of political conversation is trying to basically get through it or trying to just signal the right things to someone.
Yeah.
It's not trying to actually understand what's happening, right? It's about like showing up with your Raiders jersey, not did we have a good football game? You know,
Right.
that kind of a difference.
Exactly.
So
yeah, man, you
I
got it
think
in the right spot.
yeah, I think this is like the perfect moment to call it. So thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Any we definitely will do this again. I think that would be great.
Yeah.
If you have any after the fact, if you have any guest ideas for me, people you want to send my way that you think would talk to me, I'm all for that. And I appreciate you doing your podcast. I'll definitely be listening to more than just the Gerard Michaels episode. And have an awesome one, man.
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure.
Peace.
Peace out.